You're not in any moral position to tell anybody how corrupt they are. You should be quiet.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most explosive, high-stakes showdowns ever aired on 60 Minutes.
I believe that it's a problem with government.
Number 10, Lesley Stahl versus Marjorie Taylor Greene. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of the most polarizing figures in 21st century American politics.
We're going to re-elect our favorite president, the greatest president in United States history, Donald J. Trump. Right, Georgia?
A MAGA firebrand, Greene became synonymous with conspiracy theories and divisive rhetoric. Then came her public break with President Trump over the administration's handling of the Epstein files. Greene became a GOP pariah, announcing her resignation from Congress.
Did you surrender? Did Donald Trump run you out of town?
No, not at all.
When Lesley Stahl sat down to discuss it all, it was anything but a softball interview. Stahl pressed Greene on her role in deepening political division, refusing to let her sidestep questions about fringe claims and inflammatory language. Greene pushed back, accusing Republicans of being terrified to speak openly and framing critics as part of cancel culture. The exchange was one of the most openly tense interviews of the season.
Surprise, surprise, I'm not your politician with a whole itinerary of plans or political ambitions.
Number 9, Ed Bradley versus Anita Hill. Months after explosive Senate Judiciary hearings over Clarence Thomas's Supreme Court nomination, Anita Hill gave her first major interview.
I guess I resist labels because I think once you put a label on someone, then everybody automatically assumes that they know how you think.
Hill had accused Thomas of sexual harassment, and the nation remained deeply divided. She had forced a public reckoning over workplace misconduct, but not without intense cultural blowback. Bradley pressed her on inconsistencies raised during the hearings.
Another thing that happens very often is that women are told, either by their harassers or by others, that they won't be believed if they come forward.
He asked why she had followed Thomas to another job and questioned whether politics played any role. The exchange was measured, but unmistakably tense. Hill defended her credibility under pointed questioning, knowing millions were watching. It became one of the most watched 60 Minutes broadcasts of the era and helped shape how America discussed sexual harassment.
How we deal with it is going to be important if we ever intend to rid the workplace of these problems.
Number 8, Lesley Stahl versus Henry Kissinger. Few American diplomats inspired as much admiration and outrage as Henry Kissinger.
But that's another one of these things that if you knew Nixon, I don't take all that seriously.
Why not?
It was showing off to his Orange County buddies.
Nixon's Secretary of State was the architect of many of the disgraced president's most controversial foreign policies. By the late 1990s, questions about U.S. policy in Cambodia, Chile, and East Timor still haunted his legacy. When Lesley Stahl confronted him on 60 Minutes, her tone was cool but unyielding.
If you knew Nixon, you knew what orders to take seriously and what orders not to take seriously.
That's
he
crazy.
Needs to, but
Stahl pressed Kissinger on civilian casualties and allegations of complicity in authoritarian crackdowns. Kissinger resisted the framing, defending his administration's decisions as strategically necessary. He pushed back against what he viewed as moral oversimplification. The exchange reflected a broader national debate, realpolitik versus human rights. It was a sharp but respectful sparring over history, responsibility, and the cost of American power.
Overall, he thinks his policies were the right ones and that he helped create a safer and freer world.
Number 7, Charlie Rose versus Bashar al-Assad. In 2013, Charlie Rose interviewed Bashar al-Assad on his PBS show amid global outrage over chemical weapons in Syria.
Your government did it, you would know about it and would have approved it.
I'm talking about general case.
2 years later, the region had exploded. ISIS had surged, foreign powers were intervening, and Assad still remained in power. This time, sitting down with Rose on 60 Minutes, the stakes felt even higher.
In what sense could that be the best thing that happened to me or to the government? That's illogical, that's unrealistic, that's unpalatable.
Rose pressed Assad on barrel bombs, civilian casualties, and accusations that his regime had fueled extremism to weaponize fear against his enemies. Assad rejected the premises, denied targeting civilians, and framed all opposition as terrorists. Compared to 2013, the tone was colder and more entrenched. Little had changed on the battlefield, even less in Assad's rhetoric. The interview was a contentious study in diplomatic stonewalling.
The war is not traditional war, it's not about capturing land and gaining land. It's about winning the hearts and minds of the Syrian.
Number 6. Lesley Stahl versus Mark Zuckerberg. In 2010, Facebook was well on its way to reshaping mass communication, raising serious privacy concerns along the way.
Where we thought, someone is going to build this. Someone is going to build something that makes it so that people can stay connected with their friends and their family, but no way would we be the ones who were contributing to kind of leading the whole internet in this direction.
When Lesley Stahl sat down with Mark Zuckerberg on 60 Minutes, she wasn't there to celebrate Silicon Valley mythology. She pushed hard on concerns over user data, Facebook's growing dominance, and its expanding influence.
Against all of our policies for an application to ever share information with advertisers.
They do?
And then we shut them down if they do.
Zuckerberg, still in his 20s, appeared defensive at moments, pushing back firmly on criticism. He brushed aside several concerns, maintaining confidence in his company's direction. Years later, Stahl would take a similarly direct tone with Elon Musk, challenging the CEO on power, responsibility, and public trust. In both cases, the tech titans were forced to answer questions they did not entirely control.
How do they know if it's going to move the market if they're not reading all of them before you send them?
Well, I guess we might make some mistakes. Who knows?
Number 5. The Watergate interviews. It may be hard to remember years later, but the Watergate scandal unfolded as a years-long trickle of revelations and controversy.
You never saw that memo?
I don't recall seeing it, no.
Pretty important memo.
Well, I'm sorry.
60 Minutes played a part in the reckoning. Between 1973 and 1975, Mike Wallace sat across from some of the most powerful men in the Nixon administration. His interview with former domestic policy chief John Ehrlichman was especially charged.
Can I disagree with you?
Well, you're quoted. I think you've said so yourself.
No.
Wallace interrogated him about cover-ups, abuse of power, and loyalty to a disgraced president. Ehrlichman fought back, sparring over intent and legal nuance. Other Nixon insiders faced similar scrutiny as Wallace methodically challenged their talking points. His cross-examinations helped bring the administration's criminality into sharper public focus. The Watergate interviews helped cement 60 Minutes as a force in investigative journalism.
To say any more now in terms of who said what to whom, at what point, to me would be a grave disservice, not only to the defendants that are under indictment.
Number 4. Norah O'Donnell versus Donald Trump. In the lead-up to the 2024 election, 60 Minutes interviewed both major party candidates, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris.
We now have an economy that is thriving by all macroeconomic measures. And, to your point, prices are still too high. And I know that, and we need to deal with it.
Trump quickly complained about what he called deceptive editing in the Harris interview. CBS denied wrongdoing, but agreed to provide transcripts to federal regulators. In 2025, with Trump in the Oval Office again, Paramount capitulated and settled for $16 million.
No, you're wrong. They went up under Biden. Right now, they're going down.
Months later, Norah O'Donnell sat down with Trump in the White House. The tension was palpable. O'Donnell pushed hard on his attacks against the media and the controversy surrounding his second administration. Trump challenged her framing, defended his record forcefully, and accused O'Donnell of bias. The interview was combative, with media critics both praising and criticizing her approach.
We'll fix all of those problems. Those problems are much easier than what I just did with solving all these wars.
Number 3. Mike Wallace versus Louis Farrakhan. Over the decades, 60 Minutes has featured interviews with guests from all walks of life. Few guests were more controversial than Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan.
That's my business, to influence public opinion, especially when liars are deceiving the American people.
By 1996, he had drawn national attention and outrage for his flagrantly anti-Semitic rhetoric. When Mike Wallace sat across from him, the gloves were off. Wallace confronted Farrakhan directly about his past remarks and his relationship with Jewish communities.
I do not hate Jews. I do not hate people because their skin is white. What I hate is evil and injustice and exploitation.
Farrakhan pushed back, denying bigotry and reframing his statements as political criticism. The exchange was sharp and often uncomfortable. Wallace refused to soften his questions, and Farrakhan refused to concede any ground. It would ultimately be remembered as one of the program's most memorable clashes.
Let's not talk about trust, because I really don't think that you've earned trust. But we can earn it together, but time is running out on all of us.
Number 2. Ed Bradley versus Timothy McVeigh. 5 years after the Oklahoma City bombing killed 168 people, Ed Bradley sat across from the man responsible.
Am I pure evil? Am I the face of terror sitting here in front of you?
Timothy McVeigh, speaking from federal prison, expressed little guilt in the exclusive and explosive interview. Even when Bradley confronted him about the miners who died, McVeigh was cold and remorseless. He remained a true believer in his anti-government extremist ideology.
What do you think is the appropriate way for a citizen of this country to express his or her displeasure with the government?
There are many options.
Is violence an acceptable option?
If government is the teacher, violence would be an acceptable option.
McVeigh stayed composed throughout, framing the attack as retaliation against a corrupt federal government. He called his actions an act of war. Bradley did not let him hide behind abstraction, consistently bringing the conversation back to the victims. In one of 60 Minutes' most chilling exchanges, Bradley pressed for accountability against McVeigh's calm certainty.
Are you prepared for death?
I am. I came to terms with my mortality in the Gulf War. After that, it's not that hard to be, quote, prepared for death.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. Mike Wallace versus Ayatollah Khomeini. 2 weeks into the Iran hostage crisis, Mike Wallace traveled to Tehran to confront the man at its center.
I just gave an answer. The people will it, and we can't go against this will.
On November 18, 1979, 60 Minutes aired Wallace's interview with Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. Wallace worked within strict ground rules, but pressed firmly on the seizure of the U.S. Embassy and the fate of the 52 American hostages. Khomeini didn't budge. He defended the takeover as a justified response to American interference and dismissed Western outrage.
We want the Shah. Carter must return him. The world's international law agree with this principle.
Wallace's questioning was steady and unsparing, conducted in the middle of an escalating international crisis. The broadcast ignited debate in the United States over journalistic ethics, but remains one of the most consequential confrontations in the history of American television news.
Carter must return the Shah. We have nothing against the people of the United States.
Which interview do you think was the most contentious? Let us know in the comments.